Hey guys, today a quick input once again. So it's about a demonstration, but much more important is that today, all dressed up, of course, I welcome my dear friend Axel Reitz. Axel, greetings to you, my friend.
Philip Schlaffer, great to be here with you. It's been about 2 weeks since we were last on air together.
Yeah, it was a bit stressful lately. You were traveling around the country, I was on the road too. Now we have to make use of the time when we're both at the computer, so to speak, and create some content. And it's about Weiden in der Oberpfalz, and people will know who comes from there, Stabel, Stabibi. So that's, of course, something really special.
It's about our dear friend, also Patrick Schröder, and about his circle and his activities, which also take place in Weiden and the surrounding area.
Axel Patrick Schröder, the name. What does that make you feel?
Yes, the brain, also Mr. Modesty, one of the last remaining universal geniuses in the world who really understands everything, can do everything, and also looks brilliant doing it. So in his basement, he's just bursting with health? Oh yes, I wish I could be like him, failing as a Sudelbundler propagandist, but struggling enormously just to even try. Yeah, but it's pretty much the same for you. We definitely can't measure up to that guy, but now I'm curious to see what you found. I have to admit, I'm totally unprepared because lately we've been asking ourselves a little bit about this. What is Patrick Schröder doing here? Because things have gotten pretty quiet around him, but maybe that's just the calm before the storm. So before he carries the world revolution on his shoulders here. Or
Yeah, I always said that I expected Patrick Schröder to eventually drop out. But what I saw here again, the pictures, it's also a lost cause. You can also watch how someone slowly flushes their life down the toilet. You just have to say it, but I can say it here in advance, guys. Everyone has the right to change. Even he can get out of it. Anyone can get out of it. Yeah, if you say you want to change, it's a marathon, not a sprint. A week or two isn't enough. I'm saying this now since it was brought up here. Here's a quick input for Patrick Schröder anyway. He ran Ansgar Aryan until recently, and then he handed it over to someone, and then he briefly tried, I think, to start at Amazon. Was it Amazon? Is that correct?
I think it was Amazon. I have to say, as is typical for neo-Nazis, they naturally have a very anti-bourgeois attitude. We've already covered interviews with him where he himself says that having a normal standard job would be absolute horror for him. He wants to be something special, he sees himself as a businessman, but there's a big difference between expectations and reality, isn't there? As a businessman, he never did well and also has tax issues. And yeah, what he's doing now, no idea. But the successful breakthrough as a management genius didn't work out for him any more than it did as a neo-Nazi video content creator, yeah?
I'll just finish this up here too. One moment.
FSN TV barely exists now, which was always his main way to share his message. But basically, that's how it is. Yeah, it exists.
Everything is still kind of there, but it's all crap too. It's just drifting along and nobody cares about it. And that's Patrick Schröder, whom we'll see here as well, who keeps coming up, who is there in the...
Me here. Nothing at all. You're not showing me anything here. I'm totally in the dark again, and I'm also a bit disappointed that I can't enjoy this beautiful face right now. Aha, yes, there, now. Looks a bit like a slightly chubbier version of Dieter Thomas Heck without glasses, or...
Maybe, but few here know Dieter Thomas Heck now.
Huma, Philip.
And yeah, Patrick Schröder is still in the Junge Nationalisten, not the Junge Nationalisten, in the National Democratic Party of Germany, of course. Heimat, he'll probably still be active there, wherever that is.
Is he urging people to vote AfD? Well, if I were the Heimat chairman, I would have already said, my dear friend, you were even on the state board of our party in Bavaria. You're urging people to vote for another party. In your videos, you claim we're hopeless and have messed up. Why don't you just leave? Why did you even come along at all? But it doesn't really seem to be an issue in the scene. They're probably happy about anyone who still tries to revive the inactive members a little bit, but honestly, it's kind of an ironic joke. Well, yeah.
Check this out. This is Ansgar Arjun. He once wanted to go the way of Thor Steiner and is doing that again now. What you see here, of course, is really old school crack and stuff when I look at this. Werewolf Einsatzkommando. Yes, the forces of the Sun Cross recapture burning. I just have a question. Philip,
It was always Patrick Schröder who liked to play the role of the modernizer, yes, who always lectured his Kraken colleagues. If you walk around like that, if you use such symbolism, then you shouldn't be surprised that you completely disappear in everyday political business. Yes, you are failures and a problem, which is why the national movement hasn't begun its triumphal march. And now he's spreading the same crap all over again. That's what we
have already criticized before, right? So you can see it very clearly here as well. Burning mosques. Here they're playing with the double for a Sigrun. The scandal that once happened with the Germany jersey. So yes, and here someone new has been appointed. Patrick Schröder has left this shop. There is now a new shop operator. By now it's the third one, Robert Hans-Jürgen Hoffmann. It is still located at Hammerweg 5 in Mantel. Someone made fun of how I pronounce it. Yes, all North Germans would say Mantel, and not Mantel. Alright, well, that's what it's about. But certain Antifa groups also wanted to draw attention to these structures there in Weiden. And then apparently there was a spitting attack there as well. This is from Oberpfalz Echo. There was a long interview back then with Patrick Schröder, which Axel and I also covered. Here on YouTube, I'll try to link it, and then in the video recommendations when the video ends. And there he was able to, yes, quite openly spew his non-existent worldview onto the internet. Do you remember, Axel?
It was a tough battle. I think it took us 5 parts to cover that extensive interview. And yes, thank you for reminding me, Philip. Thank you. It really wasn't that nice.
Thank you. Is it Oberpfalz Echo or please, Oberpfalz Echo? Police take stock. Antifa demonstration in Weiden without major disturbances. Weiden. The Weiden police have drawn a positive conclusion about the demonstration that moved through the city area of Weiden on Saturday afternoon. No major disturbances occurred. The Antifa Alliance Don't Wait Long organized the event. Okay, I have it. I got the report wrong. According to a statement from the Weiden Police Department, about 350 people took part in the demonstration at its peak. The procession of protesters moved through the city from about 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. There were no major disruptions to traffic. The police were present with sufficient personnel and supervised the assembly. The criminal police were also on site, with the State Security Division handling the situation. Speeches were delivered at multiple city center sites and the upper market. Antifa had previously pointed out far-right structures in Weiden and the region that they wanted to expose. For the demonstration in Weiden, there were joint train arrivals from various Bavarian cities, including Munich and Nuremberg. The speakers discussed local venues often visited by neo-Nazis in the area, among other topics. Patrick Schröder? Schröder has operated a right-wing fashion brand, the neo-Nazi media platform FSN, and a matching mail-order business since 2009. He attended the Antifa demonstration as a spectator. There was no disruption due to the police presence. Here you can only see...
May I jump in here? Yes, well, basically this is the kind of thing that used to happen somewhere every weekend. There was some left-wing demonstration against Nazi structures or right-wing actors, but none of them achieved what the organizers were probably hoping for. Because you can see, Patrick Schröder was walking around finally feeling noticed again, finally feeling important again, maybe even dangerous and significant, even though he's basically just a failed nobody. You always have to ask the question, aren't there more important topics to address? And shouldn't we rather make fun of people like that instead of portraying them as a big threat?
I see it differently here. We'll discuss Patrick Schröder in the article shortly. I know more than you, including that there's again a martial arts gym here where they trained and these structures exist. Patrick Schröder was allowed to keep a low profile in Weiden for too long. This action is important to reveal what's happening there, which is why I know more about it than you.
Okay, well, I'm not involved in that at all, but I can say that back then it didn't bother me at all. I remember when Antifa demonstrated at leading Nazis' homes, we always thought it was cool and weren't unsettled. It wasn't like anyone said, oh my god. Such stories matter more to those who want to stay undercover and avoid coming out.
Oh, I see. I wanted to ask you a question. And specifically, this demonstration just boosted Patrick Schröder's ego again. Look how important I am. Yeah, because otherwise life is really bleak. We know that, and it's not meant negatively toward him. Patrick, we know what kind of life you're living there, in absolute insignificance and in hatred. His ego's finally been stroked. But what can this demonstration actually achieve? Please, just a brief comment. Or what about those who are being outed, or those who are suddenly on the edge, or those who are still considering joining in, what could that mean or cause for them?
There are two possibilities. There are, of course, people who get unsettled by that, who say, oh my God, I don't want my name to be mentioned. Afterwards, the father-in-law or the boss might find out and I'll get in trouble. That's actually the intention and desire behind such events, to create social pressure, which can definitely lead to success for some people, that they say, oh, for now I'm not going to do anything at all, but also because their attitude hasn't changed. They might retreat deeper into the shadows or move to areas out of the spotlight. But it doesn't change the way these people think. Another group will feel encouraged by this and say, aha, cool, I'm being noticed, I'm being seen as a threat. We're powerful, we're important, those are our opponents, that's where we go, we stand up to them. That's always a very double-edged sword, and I also don't know when it comes to that. Well, now they're naming places where Patrick Schröder hangs out. I would always ask the question, sure, he's known locally, but does he go to these places to agitate, to somehow spread his worldview, or does he just go there to eat a schnitzel? That can backfire quickly. That people who basically don't sympathize with him, who just say, well, he's a regular guest, what he does otherwise doesn't concern me at all. When they are then lined up like that, a kind of guilt by association is created. Yeah, Nazis hang out at your place, so it's a Nazi bar. Can that also have the opposite effect in such a village community? That they say, wow, the guys who came here now, we don't want them, and they're just talking nonsense anyway.
Now there's a video here from Watch, W-O-T-S-C-H, I don't know, Watch. Are they in Weiden, in the Oberpfalz? I don't know what Watch means, but...
An Antifa protester spits at a camera lens. There's tension here.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's good either, but it's not there yet.
But it already looked like crap, you know? Like people had already spit on it. Man, I don't know. So, if that was the anti-fascist resistance, you can do better and you can do it more reasonably. You always have to mention it's being filmed, as we can see here. And how do people in such a middle-class environment like Mantel or Mantel react when they see something like that? Yeah, well, you should pay a little attention to civil society and their sensitivities, instead of behaving like an open fly, in my opinion, you know?
I see it the same way, just for a moment.
Yeah.
Here's Patrick Schröder. Just imagine, take a look. He's finally getting attention and goes over with his microphone. Just imagine that Axie at 40, 45, later at 50, and then after that, like Wirch, still standing, his journey leads to somewhere even more insignificant. Wirch was still involved in big actions. He's still riding a wave. Even Spiegel Television is still covering him. After 30 years, still being featured, now with the baseball bat years segments. But God, I look at that. I'm just so glad it's over. I feel sorry for him. I really do. I
have to say I wouldn't have been any different if I hadn't managed to get out. If I hadn't left, I would have just messed around like him, felt important, and convinced myself my political activity mattered. And he's doing the same thing, yeah, but it's really a sad performance. Yeah, nobody cares that he's walking around with his mic, then he can provoke the 350 people who travel there a little bit. Then he goes home, feels proud, and posts on Telegram, we really showed them.
Axel is coming up next. Good guess, good guess.
It's sad, but that's just how it is. You don't need to be a genius. I don't need a crystal ball or to drink coffee to read coffee grounds. That's the only thing they have left. Philip, and that's really, really sad, especially when we realize what a shift to the right we're experiencing in Germany and Europe, where topics have now become mainstream and have been picked up by guys like that and their structures. And yet they still can't ride that wave. Yes, they're still not hyped up as the trailblazers, as the pioneers, as the future rulers of Germany. Instead, they're still the same poor losers, just under different circumstances that they actually wished for. Man, that's a time to admit I messed up and decide to improve.
Neo-Nazi scene members and Patrick Schröder. The white race, for example, can be read on a cap. It's about intimidation, about instilling fear. The demonstrators shield themselves with signs and black umbrellas, also for self-protection, so that no videos of themselves circulate in right-wing extremist media.
That's a move on their part. I mean, it's calculated. They're taking pictures of us, first of all, to intimidate us, which unfortunately they don't manage to do. We're strong. We won't let fascists intimidate us.
I think that's great. She's there with her name, active with the Alliance. But that's what I expect from such demonstrations. Now seeing masked figures again, hiding behind banners and then putting up umbrellas. That's this black bloc behavior which hasn't been trendy or cool for 30 years. When I go to Mantell, a respectable small town in the Upper Palatinate, I show my face. I stand there and say, there are more of us, we are better. That's the problem.
That's just another cowboy and Indian game by right-wing extremists.
Groups, I
also see that in a nuanced way. Sometimes we don't know where people come from. What are their circumstances? You're in your pool house in Cologne and I'm in my peaceful Lübeck. What if you're in regions where fear is already being spread, where even a handful of neo-Nazis terrorize and put pressure on a small community, a rural area, where things can quickly turn violent? I see that in a nuanced way. Especially when people have had these experiences themselves. You want to get involved as an anti-fascist, and I mean this now separate from Antifa structures, you just want to get involved. You go there as a young girl or young man, and suddenly you get messages, you get phone calls, you're attacked on social media, pictures of you are being shared. I just want to say it.
Tell me honestly, this anti-Antifa work, which was a big hype, especially in the 90s, where is that still really happening? Honestly, there are so many brave anti-fascists. No.
That's not what I mean, Axel. There are so many offices
against totalitarianism. So you really have to ask yourself, anyone who speaks out against these structures becomes a target. That's enough for today if you
say
against the AfD. No, but then I'll let you finish. Then every local politician from the Christian Democratic Union, Social Democratic Party, Greens, who take a stand against the AfD party. Every teacher who says, I don't want my students to do an internship with this party. They enter the crosshairs and show courage. And when I get there, exposing Nazis, uncovering Nazi structures, I'm the investigator and then I act like I just don't want to be seen. And no, I do cover my face. And does that send the wrong message? Yeah, I just think that's unfair. And it's not about people standing there saying, oh my God, Nazis targeted me there. They knew my name. That may all be true, but especially then you should go out and say, I
won't show myself. But, Axel, you do that because of your attitude and your strength, because you've already experienced these things yourself as a right-wing extremist. Sometimes we mean young people.
Yes, we're talking here
more about people who... no, it's my turn to make excuses then. You're also referring to people around 18 to 20 years old who are still in school or training. Axel, that's not the same as facing a shitstorm in your mid-40s. As a 40-year-old who has been to prison and endured experiences like house searches and police, you once became a target from one side, now you've become a target from the other side. I think it really depends on who we're talking about. The 18, 19, 20-year-old attends a demonstration saying they want to get involved but are also afraid.
No doubt about it.
Totally understandable.
Yeah, it's real and legitimate. But again, we're talking about structures here that demand this autonomy. We know that.
But we don't know that. There aren't. So 350 isn't enough.
Yeah, they'll come. With the black umbrellas, dressed in black, balaclavas behind the banners. Those are the old moves. You know them too. But that...
It's not like that, Axel. With you, it's always your strong rejection of general Antifa structures showing. But we don't see 350 masked, black-clad people here.
That's what we're seeing.
I'm
not talking about everyone. I'm not saying 350 people. Yeah.
But still, there can be people among them who still want to get involved and still wear a black hood, and who have something covering their face, who don't belong to radical or extremist Antifa groups.
Sorry, I still have to say...
There aren't 350 radical Antifa members present?
Nobody said that. I never said they were radical, nor did I say they were all Antifa. But here we can already see that there is a common structure. That there is a shared self-image. And that, of course, their own anonymity should be protected because there is a narrative behind it. The Nazis are powerful, we are persecuted, and the state does nothing. That's exactly the kind of talk. And something needs to be done to counter that talk. Every single one of the Jusos, every single one of the Green Youth who stands on the street just like these people and says, I am against Nazis, I am against fascism, I am against racism. He has more courage and faces the same problems, getting targeted just as much.
He gets the same fates. Axel, it's different if you're a politician in Wurzen or a Green Party politician from Pulin. There's a difference. There's a really, really big difference. But the
Green Party politician in Wurzen isn't the same. It's very different in the West. But the Green Party politician in Wurzen also won't wear a mask when protesting racism in public.
That
is the difference.
Whoa, I don't know. I don't think we're going to agree on this. I know about your general rejection of this structure, but I think it's good. If you don't want to be recognized, it's fine as long as no one goes there. I don't think we're going to agree on this. That sends...
But a fundamentally wrong signal. What is that?
Wrong signal? That...
The wrong message is that I admit I'm not brave enough to show my face. I'm not brave enough to stand here openly and say I stand up for my values because I think the others are so powerful, so big. We're not talking about East German provinces, but about travel groups from Munich and Nuremberg. And those aren't exactly major fascist hotspots, so we're not talking about conditions like in Brandenburg. You don't know how the
individuals got there, do you?
Yes, the individual people, honestly. So where are the powerful, dangerous Nazi structures now? That I can't stand up and say that I can at least show my face and stand up for my beliefs?
I know. As I mentioned, we view it with nuance. I respect everyone who goes there. You see it differently, I know that. And let's take a look at what else happened here. Many
protesters today refuse to talk to us or will only give their first name. Nicht lange Fackeln, an anti-fascist alliance, has called for a demonstration in Weiden across Bavaria. Antifa itself is not an undisputed organization. The scientific service of the German Bundestag classifies it as left-wing to far left. Mostly unorganized but close to socialism and anarchism. Political scientists debate Antifa's level of willingness to use violence.
Seriously, at this demonstration, and now you want to tell me that these are 350 normal young people who just want to stand up against right-wing extremism. It also has a clear structure. There are banners calling for readiness to fight. Everyone is in this typical coordinated black bloc move with the tied together banners behind them. And they don't even want to talk to the press that's actually sympathetic to them.
Of course. But still, you also see completely normal people from the general public here now. Yes.
You also see regular people from the public joining Pegida and AfD marches. Can I make the same point? There are normal people everywhere, not only here. Fascists aren't just here either. The IBL members aren't just the Junge Nationalisten members, there are also completely normal people among them. You're part of the structure here, part of an alliance marching with banners alongside people who demand readiness to fight and militancy, but they're still people.
Without a banner. Axel...
You're now saying this character is part of a mixed group, and these 350 people are just regular citizens. Well, I don't see anyone here who appears particularly bourgeois. I don't see any banners from democratic institutions or organizations. What would you consider as...
What do you consider bourgeois now? German, 50, 60-year-olds boomers. Yeah, but...
Just regular people, just regular citizens.
But what bothers you about this image we have now? What bothers you about this image? The image...
is not just this image.
That was that there are clearly militant calls here, that you can see people deliberately covering their faces. There are specific black bloc calls here. We're talking about this image now, which I just randomly paused. This
image paused randomly. People are walking by. But I can also cut out this kind of image from any Pegida or AfD demonstration and say, look, this isn't a far-right demonstration either. Look at the Freie Sachsen. There are also mothers and fathers walking there now with their child in their arms, and they don't look militant at all. You have to look at the overall character of such events. You just saw how this event was set up. You saw how they were walking around. You saw the banners with masked people with calls for struggle, for militancy. As a Democrat, I don't support that kind of speech or structure and feel compelled to speak out. Man, no, against Nazis, yes, but not with those methods, not with those calls.
I'm not sure we'll agree on this. I also dislike the constant readiness to fight, but that's always part of it. It's just that an anti-alliance called for it, that's why it's like that. But I don't see 350 anti-democrats passing through the streets here.
I didn't say that, only those ready to fight. I didn't say that, but that's the impression it gives. And the people who organize this are carried along by this lack of criticism, by this lack of distinction. The Black Bloc was never common at demonstrations of 100,000 people against right-wing extremism. But they were also able to revitalize themselves on this wave because they were carried along without criticism, protected, and moved within these circles. That's how young people get radicalized, by adopting these narratives and believing they must take militant action against the Nazis too. We can't be seen here because they're dangerous. The state isn't acting and is heading toward fascism. It's 3:05.
We're not coming together here. Axel, I don't think we're coming together here now. That's just...
But the day that you
have... I don't think we're coming together on that now. We've always had very different opinions about it. I would let it run again. It's totally legitimate that we have different views on this.
The
Public attention is given to taking to the streets against right-wing extremist structures.
The demonstration mainly targets the network surrounding neo-Nazi Patrick Schröder. He served on the board of the far-right Nationaldemokratische Partei Thüringens, now known as Heimat.
Today,
Oh, did you know that Patrick Schröder left? Did you know that?
I don't know, there were some mistakes there, Lars, but so far no new information. But to be honest, I'm not really informed about who still holds a position in this leftover group. Even Frank Francis left, without a word or a sound. Yeah, that's...
Still a mess.
Is he still out there?
Yeah, I was just on there yesterday or the day before.
Maybe it hasn't been updated, or they just assumed he's inactive. Good for them. I wouldn't know. But let's be honest, will it really make any big difference whether he's still a member of that brown bunch or not? Who cares? I don't know. Meaningless, meaningless, on the way to nothingness, whether one more or less of these water carriers is there. Who cares about that, right?
Peter Schreiber is now the party chairman.
Yes, now Free Saxons also has a close personal union with these structures. They were also supposed to shift from Heimat into the so-called pre-political space, because they know that, of course, they can't score any points against the AfD in any elections anymore. That's why they're now meant to be more of a network and alliance as an organization.
Honestly, I'm having a really hard time even finding their homepage right now.
That's a good sign, but I'll take a look too. It should be Heimat Bayern then, right?
The homepage is still on NPD-ED.
Well,
So that's all just history now? Photos and the newspaper's history are just history now. Renaming in 2020, no.
but that's something else. So the Heimat is the Heimat there. That's the current one. And then there's the tab on-site, Bavaria.
It's funny that if you Google Die Heimat, the party doesn't even show up. That's already a weak showing from them.
So the chairman Reiner has Sascha Rossmüller. Is there also Axel Michaelis? But Patrick Schröder can't be seen, so he doesn't seem to be worthy enough, at least here, to appear on the regional page for Bavaria of Die Heimat.
I don't even know, like now. Recently, because I was here, I was still on it, I recently did a stream here reacting to something from Mark Kant. And I still saw Frank Franz Kurtz on the page. But then he left without a sound.
He still does his so-called chat streams, but not as often as before, and tweets around. That's basically his activity. But he didn't run again for chairman, and he didn't show up at the election event either. In my opinion, that's already a sign. So, someone who stayed loyal to the party for so long, who was always on the board, either as press spokesman or most recently as the figurehead and party chairman. If someone like that stays away from such an election, doesn't run again, that says a lot even without many words.
Yes, here we see Patrick Schröder. We actually wanted to keep it a bit shorter, but with our brief exchange in the conversation.
We're still practicing, still practicing.
Yes.
Up front, I think that's Benjamin Moses. Wild name for a right-wing extremist, right? I wanted to...
Just say that I'd really like to see his Aryan certificate.
Benjamin Moses is supposed to be the operator of Balaclava. So, this up here is supposed to... One moment.
Is there more coming, or do you need a bit more time? Should we take a break? Yes.
Yes, wait, okay. The man's name is Benjamin Moses. And I think you can see that quite well here. This is where the two of them are showing the white power sign. The one's running Balaclava. And that's a media portal that he runs there. It had a bit of reach during Corona, but I think its influence has faded into insignificance.
Ethical approach of white supremacy 3.0. What they mean by that, or what they're trying to do, is to make far-right ideologies more socially acceptable again by associating them more with lifestyle aspects. And he's currently building so-called active clubs all over Germany. These are organizations where young right-wingers network to train in martial arts together. In
Weiden, the Antifa.
That's not a new concept either. It's been talked about for several years. Most of that is adopted from Italy, where there is actually a very dangerous and very widespread network of these so-called active clubs. There have already been relevant articles in NS Heute by Sascha Kolzig and corresponding considerations that the leftovers of the neo-Nazi scene, which haven't found a new approach to present any kind of appeal to the outside, could shift their focus to these active clubs in order to attract a hardcore group of people through martial arts, hypermasculinity, and street fighting behavior. There are some cases, especially in the East, but it hasn't worked out as it was imagined. People thought it in every city, but the scene there is actually too fragile and too unstable, so that it could really suddenly create a network out of nowhere. Often, it's just that a few currently active neo-Nazis arrange to meet in some martial arts clubs. Very rarely, some are even founded by such people. But fortunately, it's not really comparable to the truly functioning networks in other European countries or in the United States of America.
Was the Spartan martial arts group suspected? A few weeks ago, the gym's operators told Oberpfalz television there were no far-right martial arts groups at their facility. They mentioned a former neo-Nazi who has since changed his ways. However, OTV research shows that the man who was managing director of Schröder's neo-Nazi fashion label Ansgar Aryan until mid-July trains here.
Yes, you have to say it. Out of Ansgar Aryan in mid-July, then in the club and so on. That's already a pretty close connection. I'm out of it now and have nothing to do with it anymore. For me, it's always very quick. Axel...
Yeah, that's not what I mean. That could just be an excuse from the club. But of course, we don't know if that one neo-Nazi in this club just went there to train, or whether he actually spread his political ideas there and maybe even brought people in to practice street fighting in his sense. For now, I presume innocence without more information. If you have a sports club, then a neo-Nazi shows up, someone not famous enough for you to recognize, who might also say something. I'm not involved with those circles now. Do you want to kick him out immediately and say, get lost? No.
I don't think we'll agree today. Axel, who has run Ansgar Aryan for years.
Do you know that? Yes, I know.
I know, but you know that. Yes, I know.
Do you know that
As someone who has practiced Ansgar Aryan for years, we saw the t-shirts he was recently selling.
And now you're a club owner. You have now...
A sports club. I wouldn't want to have that. As soon as there are young people and everything, I wouldn't want to have that.
No question about it. But now let's keep it small. Now there are 100 people coming who train with you. Then you have everyone in sight. Then, like I said, he's not here. He's not here. Michael Kuhn, Christian Wursch, that's a guy.
That's exactly how easy it is today.
That's just a guy now.
You can enter your 150 member list into Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Just upload the Excel list and say, find this for us. Is there anyone here who has extremist tendencies to the left, to the right, or in Islamism? Please filter them out. Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer done in 3 minutes. Axel.
And we talk
About willows. Wait a minute. We're talking about willows.
willows. Yes, so then there is...
Well, Axel, he ran Ansgar Aryan. Yes.
But again, Philip, just be realistic. Just be realistic now, not political at all. You are now the operator of a sports club. Yeah, where 100 people come. Nobody's coming in now wearing an Ansgar Aryan t-shirt. Nobody's coming in now who goes around bothering people. Man, want to join the protest? Forget the state and Antifa. We beat them up. Just a completely normal guy, so you don't really have the incentive to look or to take a closer look. And you say to yourself,
He didn't seem normal. I'm telling you,
you saw him, you saw that guy just now, the weirdo. From the outside, he looked more like a leftist. Just by appearance, you couldn't peg him as a neo-Nazi. And that's going a bit too fast for me.
I don't think so. It was about them. Axel mostly, I think, really just about...
Him, they said it was about that one neo-Nazi who was there.
Yeah, the demonstration is... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's someone who runs the store, Ansgar Aryan. Just for a moment, I'm going to check out the store now. Here, wait.
Yeah, no question.
No, Axel, it's my turn now.
Yeah, nobody knows, so...
That's bad. The comments aren't fitting today. Axel, hold on. I'm switching to men now. And up here it says tank tops, and there's a swastika on the tank top. I don't know if you can see this right now. Do you see it? Yes, I see it, of course. So we're talking about Weiden, and nobody will have shown up there who looks like XY and like Michael or Tom from next door.
Not
Especially Schröder and...
his people, especially Schröder and his people, act very differently. We don't know. All I'm saying is we don't know.
We don't know. Oh, Axel, the two of us just don't get along today, so it's...
Yeah, but seriously, just look at Schröder. Look at the new operator of Ansgar Aryan. Yeah, at first they don't really make you say, wow. Nazis often hide the ways they make money and spread things secretly rather than carrying them openly. How stupid it is to show off that kind of crap. And there can definitely be people who have learned to hide it, who don't go around telling everyone hey, National Socialism, Heil Hitler, etc. But rather those who maybe come across as very friendly, nice, and polite, and who don't really stand out at all. That's also a strategy to gain sympathy this way and to get into certain structures like that. We simply don't know whether it was a troublemaker who barged right in. I would also say, yeah, man, I would have told him off, and I would have made sure whether I'd let him around other young people. Or if it was just a normal guy who just went there to work out, and then it's just not realistic. Yeah, like saying all their alarm bells should have gone off immediately about who was coming in. They should immediately fire up Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer and then ideally ask 10 Antifa groups if they have background dossiers. A normal business doesn't do that, a normal person who owns a company doesn't do that, and then someone comes along, Mitch.
You're downplaying it today, Axel. Where is it?
Where's that downplaying?
Willie. Yeah, maybe he just wants to do his sport, so it doesn't really matter.
I didn't say that, but now you're putting words in my mouth. I didn't say he wants to. I said we don't know. And there's a difference if someone shows up who's immediately recognizable as a right-wing extremist, someone, oh wow, that's a guy in dangerous circles, or...
Whether there's no difference, there's really no difference. He runs the shop, Ansgar Aryan, period. Again...
But it's about the operator's level of knowledge.
Yes, but you could always say, I didn't know, I don't care, I didn't know.
Yes, you can also say no.
No, you can't.
You don't have to. As a business owner, you aren't required to be politically informed about who may come here. As a business owner, what matters most is if someone stands out or if I recognize them when a stranger enters. If someone behaves normally, I wouldn't start compiling dossiers or doing research on them like the Stasi. Who would do that? That's nonsense. No one does that.
No, Axel, we're talking here. No, you're just making excuses.
Nobody does that.
No, you're making excuses because you're pretending. As if we're talking about someone here, as if we're talking about someone XY, but we're not. But of course, that guy is the one making noise.
Isn't he an XY?
We're not discussing someone at a bus stop, and neither am I.
claims no, but we...
Discussing neo-Nazi leaders. Yes, but no's.
Does anyone even know them today? Does anyone still know them? Anyone? Go out there and ask your business associates, like how many leaders of the neo-Nazi scene, just from Schleswig-Holstein alone, know?
Axel, we, the ones here, don't know a single one?
No, they don't know a single one, Axel.
But we're talking about Weiden, we're talking about the shop, you know.
If that guy in Weiden is active right now, to have a safe environment there, he knows there's no Antifa or strong civil society there, so he can run his shop now. Or if it's someone like Schröder, who also seeks the public eye. He says, I go to every information booth, register demonstrations, and appear on every camera. I don't know that. If that's the case, I'd also say, man, of course, then they knew who that was. All I'm saying is we don't know how he appeared, whether he's well known. And then mentioning 100 times that he runs the shop, Ansgar Aryan, an average person wouldn't know that he runs some shop or owns some business. When some guy shows up there to train, you just don't know. And more needs to be done about that.
No, Axel. Unfortunately, you don't really know much about, let's say, this martial arts scene and how things work there. I can just tell you're not really familiar with the topic. But how does it work there? Because it's infiltrated, it's present in so many clubs. Either there are right-wing extremists, there are bikers, there are criminals. These clubs often attract a certain kind of crowd. We're seeing it now. Christian Eckerlin, the so-called hero, is being promoted by RTL and others. To keep a clean club, you must watch who enters. It's that simple. Do you want a clean club? That has happened here in Schleswig-Holstein too, where neo-Nazis have given training sessions for kids, did charity work and so on. Axel, I'm sorry, we can't agree on that either. Clubs must ensure they know who enters and trains with kids, so claiming we didn't know isn't an excuse. We can't check everyone here, but can you? Yeah, you have a responsibility there, especially when it comes to children, and teenagers. There is always a responsibility. Martial arts isn't just about fighting, it also stands for social values in clubs and similar settings. That would let every club just say, we didn't know or take care of it, as an excuse. What level do you want to end this at? It's especially an issue in martial arts. There are issues with the environment, crime, and extremism there. And we're talking about Weiden, we're not talking about Hamburg or Bremen, where someone might say, okay, those are problematic members. We're talking about Weiden. People who've talked about Patrick Schröder's shop for years don't show up.
That's definitely within the realm of possibility, what I'm saying. We don't know. We also don't know now how this club is made up. Are they living up to their social responsibility? Did that guy train with kids there? Basically, we actually don't know anything at all at first, but we start with standardized assumptions that are accurate in many areas. There's no question that the martial arts scene in particular is often infiltrated by criminal structures and extremists who are getting closer and closer. Many cross connections are extremely dangerous. Excuse me, we've talked ourselves about guys like Stephen Feldman, yes, the active clubs and so on and so forth, no question about it, but I worked on it. But for now, we don't have any more information here. What we're relying on now are assumptions. You should look at that more closely. I'd like more information. And if this information reflects what is now quite likely, what we believe we can now assume, then I'm completely with you. But what I can say is we don't know yet. So for me,
it's proven that anyone running Ansgar Aryan is part of the neo-Nazi leadership. There's nothing more to say about Ansgar or who runs Ansgar Aryan for years with names, but
you can mention that 100,000 more times now. That guy's definitely a neo-Nazi, no doubt. I've never denied it. But again, the question is he known locally? Do most people recognize him? Would anyone notice if he entered a club to play sports? Who they're dealing with? That's the big question.
Unfortunately, I can't remember the name right now because I'd like to show the person, but as soon as I read the name, I'll know it.
That was Moses, wasn't it? No.
No, that's Balaclava.
Oh, Balaclava is someone else. Okay.
I know when I read the name. They may have taken over Viking Mail Order too. The address changed and it now belongs to Patrick Schröder. Crap, no, no, no. Not the name now?
You're a big chat generative pre-trained transformer fan, so just ask there. It should be able to find that out, right?
Yeah, but me now, Benjamin Moses again. So that's basically a whole segment for today, considering how long it was. One moment. So I'll just let this run for a moment. It
is important because there are simply more and more Nazi structures here. It's becoming blurred. People are present in gyms. People recruit other people to draw them into the far right. That's why it's necessary to bring anti-fascism to the streets. It's that simple.
150 officers from across Bavaria secured the protest. An escalation when Antifa and neo-Nazis meet should definitely be prevented. The sober conclusion after an emotionally charged event, no significant incidents.
Yes, we had already talked about it before when I imagine it. I can't even keep track of how many demonstrations there are anymore. There's now even demonstration tourism, really, from people who go there and film it. Starting with Vicrate Television, now there's Escalade. There are a lot of others who go there now to do their demo streams because they're really successful. From the other side, the ones who go there and do their, I don't know, does anyone even care about that anymore? A demonstration like that is just some impact in Mantel and Weiden.
Actually, not at all. Well, that's something that's very, very reassuring on one hand, but also worrying on the other. Because the structures have shifted a lot also into the virtual space, into areas that are no longer so easy to penetrate, where even we, when we look, aren't quite sure if it's already dangerous or not. That's the downside. But the advantage is that this militant neo-Nazi scene has become so weak, so unstable, so uninteresting that there are hardly any events organized by them anymore. What we have now are often these anti-pride demonstrations, which are organized by a new generation of neo-Nazis. But the old cadres prefer to go to martial arts events. They would rather focus on organizing concerts, often still in other European countries, because it's safer and easier there. But this classic move, like in the past, wanting to be a street movement, creating an experience with demonstrations, rallies, action, that hardly exists anymore. That's no longer there in that way. Now we see many other right-wing events, radicals and extremists bringing people to the streets. But even there are few attractive features that stand on their own. If someone wants an experience, it's better to attend a soccer game today, or to some other sports event, to some local derby. You don't need what you used to need in the past. The major neo-Nazi demonstrations have significantly decreased, and the topics aren't brought into the public as much anymore either. All this historical revisionism, this glorification of the Third Reich, the hidden revisionism behind it, trying to rewrite history, you basically don't have that anymore today. The new right-wing extremist scene is more about picking up this drawing a line debate again and saying, oh, come on, that's enough, not the Holocaust again, we don't want to hear about it anymore. But this classic denial claimed the Allies were the real enemies, we were heroes, and Hitler was the good guy. Now, that hardly happens anymore, and back then that was also such a central characteristic about these demonstrations, starting from the marches against the Wehrmacht exhibition to the commemorations of the bombing of Dresden, and so on and so forth. That doesn't exist anymore. Basically, now there's only one event a year where if things go well, 1,000 Nazis show up from all over the country. That's not even comparable to the marches we had in our time, where sometimes tens of thousands of people from all over Europe took to the streets.
Axel, I tried using chat generative pre-trained transformer the way you suggested. Then I found Andreas Lukas Suttner here, who was active before. Oh, name or Andreas Lukas Suttner.
Suttner, okay.
And then here it says, support your local fighter. That was posted by this fight club. That's all I can tell you about Lucas. His Instagram profile is a boxing glove with a yellow lightning bolt behind it. Yeah, I don't want to misinterpret that.
The yellow lightning bolt behind it, of course, has a certain resemblance to a certain rune that's used, especially in far-right circles. The profile is hidden. I won't make accusations, but I want to copy it further. I'm curious about what's behind this profile. Feel free to check it out if you'd like. That's why research is relatively easy nowadays, but that's just something I found. They just posted it, and you can see him next to it as well. Then Oudenabot there. That's what ChatGPT quickly pulled up for me about that person. Yeah, we were out for almost an hour now. There was a lot of action today. Leave a comment. I'm curious about your experiences. The key is always reconnecting with each other. Axel and I often disagree on that, but that's part of being good Democrats. If we were all just flattering each other, then extremists and radicals would come around the corner with completely different ideas and eventually win people over. That's why this discourse is part of it. Yeah, I have to say, it's always shocking for me to see Patrick Schröder there. That's just how it is for me. Christian Warsh, 2-0, he'll be 50.
But at least Christian Warsh is still known in certain circles. Christian Warsh can at least sit down and say, oh, I was in so many media reports. Who is Patrick Schröder? His big moment was the interview at Oberpfalz Echo and a segment from 10 years ago on Fern Television, the Nazi modernizer, the Nazi strategist. If that's all that's left of Patrick Schröder, then good night. So kid, get out, get some help, you can have a good life. You don't have to go along with this crap, you just need to have the guts to own up to your mistakes and try to get out of your extremism and your fantasies. Then a good life is waiting for you too.
Axel, it's that simple. Thanks for your time. Check out Axel Reitz's book, I Was the Hitler of Cologne. Please support his work. I would really appreciate that. Go to his page, get in touch with him about it. Then here's my book as well, Out of Hate, Power, Violence. And starting today or tomorrow, my audiobook is out. The link is here below the video. The audiobook Hate, Power, Violence is available everywhere. Check it out with the Beef Bandits and Philip Zane. Thank you. A little advertising is necessary. With Philip Zane, you get 10% off everything about fly drops and so on. Thanks to the people who need that, then at ZEGG Plus with Philip Zane. Thank you to everyone. Otherwise, thumbs up, thumbs down. Feel free to comment. Yes?
I listened. Can you repeat that for me, please?
That was quick. People now know what always comes here. I did it fast. But much more important is Axel, thank you so much for your time. And of course, we'll put this out now. Axel, thank you. And as always, I remain with an ahoy from the coast.